Good morning. That's right. It's morning, not afternoon today. Welcome to Trail Talk. I'm so glad you could join us. We have a first-time guest with us today. I'm very excited to talk to Mike Conn. Mike, welcome to Trail Talk.
Thank you so much, Edie.
Yeah, I can't believe that Mike's never been on Trail Talk before, but that's okay because we're gonna find out everything you wanted to know about him and then some. Maybe not. Maybe we won't go all the way there, but Mike might be a familiar face to many of you. You've been around dunking.
That's right.
It is a little early, and I just had one cup of coffee this morning. Okay, so are you originally from Duncan?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Graduated high school from Marlow, and then got my first church job in 1996 and invested 2.5 decades in the church. And that's actually what brought us to Duncan in 2015. I was on staff at New Hope Baptist Church, and that's how we came here. And we've been here for almost 8.5 years, and it's Duncan's home for us.
All right, and you're married to the lovely Gina.
Yes.
Who is a teacher at where is she?
She's
at
at
the
middle
middle
school.
school? Yeah, she's
Right
at the
across the
middle
street.
school. She used to come here with third graders,
Yes.
and I used to get to see her in those days, but I don't get to see her so much anymore.
You know, she told me that was one of her favorite field trips to put on the calendar every year. And so I'm not just saying that because we're here. Like, that was a really cool thing. And I hadn't even been in here until Leadership Duncan, and we met here
Right.
one of our sessions. I
Uh-huh.
was like, oh, okay. And then I was able to connect some dots.
Right,
too. So
right.
yes, we've been married. It's 1 month from today will be our 24th anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's wonderful.
Very proud of it.
3 kids.
Yes, ma'am. Rayleigh, Jackson, and Jacob, and now I'm a father-in-law,
Yeah.
which is great. So I tell people all the time, this work that I do, it's the second greatest work of my life so far, next to being Gina's husband and Rayleigh, Jackson, and Jacob's dad, and now Aiden's father.
There
So
you go.
it's true, and I say it a lot because I want people to know that I believe that, but I also say it because I'm very, very proud of that. And so, and also I'm reminded that no matter how badly this conversation goes, they can't leave me. Like, they're stuck with me, right?
Sorry, guys.
So,
Yeah, family has to be, it has to be there. You just, I didn't work until my kids were almost all out of the house. And I look back on those years and I think, man, what a great thing I got to do.
absolutely.
I got to do.
Absolutely.
It was
Well, and you
the best.
never think, no matter what your vocation is, you never think, oh, I wish I would have spent more time at work and less time with my kids.
Mhm,
And so,
yeah.
I love that you got a chance to do that. Gina did that too.
Mhm.
When the kids went to elementary school, then she went back to work.
Right,
So
which is perfect
It's a great-
timing. That's a great thing. So, so you guys have been here for 8.5 years, and but you are no longer involved in the church
That's correct. I don't work
as an employee, as a
right.
pastor. Yeah.
That's exactly the correct way to say that.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the church. I love that we have 86 churches here in Duncan. Lots of opportunities to go to church.
Plenty.
So-
There's no excuse, people.
And I think there's so much good that's being done, and I know we're going to touch on this today. There's so much good that's being done in Duncan, but I feel like sometimes we're siloed. And so the good that we do, but sometimes it feels like we do it in a vacuum.
Mhm.
And I think it happens on the church level, the nonprofit level, businesses and schools, all these different areas, which is one of the reasons that I love Duncan, is because I think the more people know what good someone else is doing, then we're going to try to connect together with that instead of just say, oh, well, I see. So you've got this territory, I'll stay over here. And I think we've lived in several different communities, on staff at churches for 2.5 decades and traveling around. And so you get a chance to see some different places. And that's one of the reasons why Duncan is still home for us.
Right.
And we've chosen to make it home for us.
And so when you left the church, what career move did you make?
Well, I have a business now. It's called Mike Conn Coaching and Consulting. And I get a chance to go and speak. And I started speaking on my day off at church, which, sometimes that's kind of a joke. There's not really lots of days off because you're always on call. I mean, I get
You
that.
could just say hours off.
Right. But we had Fridays off in the office. And so I started doing these sessions in schools. And I was invited by one of the fifth grade teachers to come in at an elementary school. And she said, would you come in and do actually, I kind of invited myself. I said, listen, you do a fantastic job. And I know that these fifth graders are about to go to middle school. And could I have 30 minutes with them before they go to middle school? And this teacher, who we're still friends today, she looked at me and she smiled and said, no, but I'll give you an hour. And so we scheduled a time for me to come in. I brought this stool, I brought a note card with 4 things on it.
Mhm.
And I just told them these 4 things. One of them was on for you. There's a dude in Duncan who's for you. I want you to know that. Another one was you're entering the most selfish phase of your life. So make good choices. And there were a couple of other things. And that really prompted, that was at the end of the school year. At the beginning of the next year is when my son Jackson was going into 5th grade. And we had this same teacher, same conversation. And she said, well, you know that talk you did last year? Maybe if you could do like a beginning of the school year talk and an end of the school year talk or something. And I said, well, I mean, I'm not homeroom parent material, but let me see what I could do. And so I went back over the weekend and really did some praying and some thinking. And I came back on that Monday and we met. I had a 9-session framework on leadership for 5th graders. And I called it the Do Good. Well, it's called the Do Good Leadership Labs, because everybody can do good and nobody can do the good you can do the way you can do it. And this month this is the 7th year we're doing it. And we did session 904 a week and a half ago.
Wow. So you're not just speaking in one elementary school in Duncan anymore.
That's correct. It's spread and really it started in 5th grade, but it also went down to, I've done sessions for pre-K up through 12th grade. And so the interesting thing about that, after about 104-ish sessions, a buddy of mine who graduated with me, he was a principal in another town. He said, why don't you come up and do this thing that you do? I said, okay, thank you. So I did it pre-K through 5th grade. And at the end of the day, he said, hey, I know what you do. Come to my office. I'm gonna give you a bottle of water. I'm going to tell you what you do. I said, okay, I can't wait because I got no idea what I'm doing. And he just said, you help students navigate their social emotional issues. Okay. And so then that was part of my pitch. And then, so some business owners here in Duncan said, you help students navigate social emotional issues. That sounds a lot like developing soft skills in the workplace. Could you come and speak to my customer service team? And so that began this other side of my business, which wasn't really a business yet. But now, yesterday I was out of town doing sessions with the health department in Northeast Oklahoma. And at the end of the day, we finished session number 540. So on the school side, we've done 904, and the goal is at least 10,000 sessions. So we're just kind of getting started. And then on the business side, we've done 540, and there's no end in sight.
Right.
This is what I mean when I say it's the second greatest work of my life so far, because I get to do the thing that I'm built to do. My mission is simple. I want to help people feel seen and feel valued. And what great opportunities then to be invited into businesses. I've got some buddies that are still in ministry on staff at church, I should say more accurately. And they say, so you're allowed into the schools? Can you help me get allowed? I said, I'm not allowed, I'm invited. That's different. And like, oh, well, could you help me get invited? And I'm like, yeah, write this down. Don't be a jerk. Like, you're not trying to solve problems. You're trying to value people. And so that is what I've really worked really hard over the past 8 years here to be known as the guy who's for people. Like, am I against some stuff? Probably. Who cares? Like, I refuse to be known by what I'm against. I want to be known by who I'm for. And in this day and age where there's more political unrest, social unrest, it's so much easier to be known by what you're against than who you're for, online and off. I just really make it a point to do everything I can to let people know that I'm for them. And so that's one of the reasons I love being here today and seeing what you guys do every single day. I mean, it's one of my favorite parts of our community. And I love every chance I get to tell somebody about what good you're doing. And so to have a chance to chat with you this morning, I'm very excited.
Appreciate
Thank
that. So, even though this is none of the things we've talked about are the main reason you're
Right.
here today, I just wanted the viewers to understand where you came from and what brought you to Duncan and why Duncan Heart and Soul is something that you want to represent. It's another job, responsibility, whatever commitment, time
Right.
that you have chosen to give to this. And so let's start talking about Duncan Heart and Soul. How did you become involved? Duncan, so just so you know, Duncan Heart and Soul, Alan and Chris Deal and Chris Rao, and then 2 people zoomed in from Ohio.
Right.
Or is it- was it a-
Alexis was probably one from, she lives in Colorado, but they're based out of Nevada.
No.
So
Oh, okay. And
it's kind of a region,
well, there was a man who was a part of one of these communities.
right?
For some reason, I was thinking he was in Ohio, but you know what? I've slept a time or two since then. At any rate,
Yes.
so we had a little bit of an introduction into the vision, because that's what it was at that time. It was a vision. They were learning everything they needed to learn to bring the Duncan Heart and Soul to the kickoff point,
Right.
which is where I think we are
Yes, ma'am.
now. So I'm sorry, I jumped in on top of you, but so how did you come to find out about Duncan Heart and Soul and choose to become involved with them?
I think Alan and Chris approached me a while back just to say, hey, this is a thing that we're doing, and
Let's pitch.
Okay.
This is
yes,
is coming out of Leadership Duncan.
Leadership Duncan.
Yeah,
Yes.
which we are both.
Yes, ma'am.
We were both graduates of Leadership Duncan. It's a wonderful community leadership program. It really
I was class
changed my
23.
life.
What class were you?
21.
21.
You were my husband.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, Kevin,
Yes.
my husband was in that class. Anyway, so every class has a project.
Right.
This is their project.
Yes.
Their class project.
And that's a great precursor to it, because
Mhm.
when I was in Leadership Duncan and going through the different days and the different projects that we were part of, I thought, oh, this is a great way to connect people and connect leaders in our community.
Mhm.
So when the class that Alan and Chris were in, when they said, hey, we want to make this one of our class projects, my ears were kind of perked up.
Mhm.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
because I know the heart of why people do that, right?
Mhm.
And so, of course, Chris Steele, a fabulous guy,
Yeah.
he's the best. And so he and I have lots of conversations. My international headquarters of Mike Conn Consulting is nestled in to the Chamber of Commerce, which is housed in the city of Duncan, right? So
Yeah.
lots of conversations with folks just as we're just in the hallway and doing the work that we're doing. And so when the community heart and soul conversation became, we want it to be Duncan Heart and Soul, what's that look like? We need someone to be a project coordinator. Hey, Mike, are you interested? Because what they are trying to do, really this program, it's a resident driven program, and it's really designed to bring communities together. And they've done, I'm sure some of this was covered on the last conversation about it.
Right, but it's a refresher is always good.
Absolutely. They've done over 100 projects in over 100 communities nationwide. But Duncan's the first in Oklahoma. There's one in Texas and one in Kansas. And one of the things I know about the good people of Duncan is we like to be first when we can,
There
right?
you go.
And so
There you go.
that's a good opportunity for us to kind of lead the way and take what they've done very successfully in several states and see, okay, what is this that makes sense for us here? And then how can we, I first heard the phrase when I used to watch American Idol, and they said, I love the way you take the song and you make it your own, right?
Mhm,
How do
yeah.
we take this and bring it to Duncan where it's pliable, where it makes sense for us, and it's something that's not just a couple of year project, it's something that's we can look back and say, this is a big not necessarily turning point, but a unification point, right?
Mhm.
So my commitment to this program is 3 to 5 years. And I'm the project coordinator, which means I get to use the degree that I went back and got. So I crammed my 4-year degree into 13.
Well, there you go.
And so
There you go.
I finished with an organizational leadership degree,
Uh-huh.
which now Jean and I were talking just not too long ago, and she said, isn't it amazing how you're using this degree that you got, that maybe when you got it, you weren't sure how you were going to use it, working in the church, and then now being a community liaison, for lack of a better term.
Right.
And so with the thing that I wanted to be known for, that I was becoming more known for in our community, the folks who were making the decisions said, hey, we at least need to have a conversation. So we had several conversations, and how can we do this well? And Alan and Chris have been incredible support. I have multiple I have calls every 2 weeks with the good folks from Community Heart and Soul to make sure that they're giving me all the support that I need and all the help that I need. We have a core team that's an amazing core team made up of people here in Duncan. They're from nonprofit leaders, business leaders, faith leaders, all across our community. It's me and about 14 folks who were making up the core team. And so now what we're really trying to do is bring the initial opening statement in front of people and the 3 powerful principles that this program is based on. And then we'll have conversations, which is what we did on Tuesday.
Right.
And that was the beginning of really, in my mind, crawling up on when I was a kid, I'd go to the city pool and crawl up on the high dive. And then I wanted to crawl back down on the stairs, but sometimes I would jump.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing is we're just jumping and we're cannonballing in from the high dive to say, hey, this is what we're doing. And we're not here to fix Duncan. It's not broken. We're just here to connect Duncan. It's in different ways. So the elevator pitch, the clock would start now on the elevator pitch, right? We really believe that the strength of every community lies in the hands and the hearts of the people who live there. And no one disagrees with that. And this program is based on 3 powerful principles. Involve everyone, focus on what matters most, and then play the long game. Well, again, no one's going to disagree with those things. These are really, really, and I don't mean they're generic statements. I mean, they're very specific, but they're easy to call people to. And the one that brings, unpack them a little, involve everyone, I think is a great idea. And partially because of my history and serving in the church, I think it's really difficult to involve people who don't feel included.
Right.
And people who don't feel included usually just need to be invited. So when you'll see, we've got a YouTube channel and Facebook page and an Instagram channel. And when I'm making these videos to put on there, when I watch them back, sometimes instead of saying involve everyone, I say include everyone. Well, because I don't think people are going to feel involved if they don't feel included. And so for me, it's really trying to take the message and put handles on it. So then you can invite people that you know that I don't know. And in my mind, it's like a farm table, just like this. And we just keep pulling up chairs because we're having conversations. And what I know about Duncan is there's a high portion of our population who doesn't feel like they've been invited to the table, whether they've been invited or they got an engraved invitation or not. They haven't felt invited. So what I want us to do is I want us to make sure that we're inviting people from all these different places. So Tuesday, what we did is we had this great day of meetings, and it's not everybody's love language, right? But we had this great day of conversations where I shared that kind of elevator pitch. And then one for faith-based leaders, one for nonprofit leaders, one for the medical community, one for the business community, one for the education community. And then we had those at the wonderful garden ballroom, which is the 3rd floor. And that's where my daughter, that's where Rayleigh and Aiden's wedding reception was. So we got to see that. It was really great. So we had 5 of those back to back to back to back to back. And my pitch was, well, I mean, I'm not serving you lunch, but you can buy the best salad in town, just right down those stairs, right? And so it was a good thing for Thinkability Cafe, because we were going to be there, the Garden Cafe there, because we were going to be there anyway. And they were fabulous. Robin and her team,
Right.
Chris Cody and his team and the kid, they were amazing, and they always are. There again, I think it's one of our newest, best kept secrets in Duncan. And
Right.
so anything I can do, in leadership, I think a lot of times we focus on trying to find the spotlight and then run towards it.
Mhm.
And I think instead of trying to run towards the spotlight, let's try to be the spotlight.
Mhm.
And when we see somebody doing good, let's shout them out on Facebook, on Instagram, social media, but in person as well. And for me, I think one of I said before, I believe 4 is one of the most powerful 3-letter words in the English language, but it's one that most people are forfeiting. Because it's so much more difficult, especially with people, because it's not all black and white. There's a lot of gray. And in leadership, sometimes we try to lead towards agreement, but I don't even agree with the guy in the mirror all the time.
Right.
How am I going to lead everybody to agree? But I think a better swap is to lead towards alignment.
Mhm.
And so when we come out with this elevator pitch of these 3 powerful principles, involve everyone, focus on what matters most, and then play the long game, then I think it's an easier pivot back to say, yeah, okay, I understand you're frustrated about this thing, whatever the thing is.
Mhm.
And I don't want to be the king of the yeah buts. That's how you know by what you're
Yeah,
against. Yeah, but it's not as bad as it used to be, or it's not as bad as it could be. I want people to get a chance to say what they want to say so they can feel heard, and then it's a yes and.
Mhm. So let me ask you a
Go
question.
ahead.
On Tuesday, were there opportunities for, I'm sure there were questions, but was this more of here's the information, ponder this, we're gonna get back together? Or was it a time for feedback?
It was more the first thing.
Okay.
It was more that this is the information.
Uh-huh.
We're for sure gonna have some follow-up meetings. We're gonna have another day just like that.
Mhm.
And the day even started earlier than that, 11 o'clock meeting with the education team, because I invited the 60 and up to Jimmy's Egg,
Mhm.
because, I mean, it's at Jimmy's Egg, right?
Right.
And so everybody knows that, but also I know there's a bunch of stuff I don't know about 60 plus, but I do know that there are some people that would want to attend a conversation like that, but when they hear it's on the 3rd floor, they would say, well, I'll just have to catch the replay.
Yeah.
So to go to a place like that there's an on-ramp, really.
Right.
That's one of the reasons that I chose that place. And so we had,
Because they have that big room at the back
was perfect.
and all that, right?
and in the same way that the good folks at the market ballroom were great,
Mhm.
the garden ballroom were great. At least I didn't call it the thing that used to be called. At the garden ballroom were great hosts, right? So they were great, but also the folks at Jimmy's Egg, like I called and said, I'd love to reserve this for, I think it was 2.5 weeks out. I said,
Mhm.
oh, that'd be great. And we'll give you as much time as you want. And when we got there, the wait staff was very attentive and all that stuff too. So
Mhm.
it was great. The conversations were intimate. They were small in number. And that's okay. In
Yeah.
fact, it was great because I got to have some conversations with people that, even though I've been here for 96, over 100 months now,
Yeah.
over 8.5 years, I still hadn't had conversations with them.
Mhm.
And they got a chance to say, oh, so that's what this thing's about. I've heard what it's about. And yeah, that's what it's about. And then I asked the question, who do you know that I need to know? Who do you know that needs to be part of this conversation? So in the 60 and up community, because what I know is a lot of times when we talk about community development or community improvement, some folks, and I don't know where the age limit is, but some folks say, well, that sounds like it's more for someone else. Sounds like it's more for the kids and the grandkids. And it's a yes and.
Mhm.
It's you're like, that's why it's a resident driven program. This is for the people, by the people here. And I want to make sure that we know what they know that we need to know.
Right. Oh, I was just gonna say, I haven't seen numbers or anything, but I feel like Duncan has become a little bit of a retirement community.
Hmm.
I mean, I talked to people who have retired and moved back to Duncan,
Really?
or they came here from another state. And I'm like, why did you pick Duncan?
Right.
I mean, let's look at the map.
Right.
Why did you pick Duncan? And so I think that is a very important part of the community to include and to even consider. What does that look like as a retirement, the retired sector
Right.
of our community, and what needs do they have? That's a very important thing to look at. So you had all these meetings. You mentioned the word silo earlier. So these are specific groups of people.
Right.
How do you break out of that to where, because I feel like that is the ultimate direction. That's where the long game,
Absolutely.
to
Right.
borrow your third point,
Sure.
that's where the long game is going.
Absolutely.
So how do you, where do you go from these group meetings that have these parameters to where those aren't there?
I love it. That's exactly where we're headed. Even though I said we're really siloed, I invited the silos in, right?
Right, yeah.
But because the goal is going to be, we're going to have another day just like this.
Mhm.
And so the folks who, I'm working on getting that on the calendar now, that's not on there yet, but it'll be within the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Mhm.
And then the people who were here, either they come back or they and bring someone with them, or they can't come back, but they send someone in their place. And then the other people who saw the nice story that the news did, who will see us here having
Right.
a conversation.
Right.
Oh, that already happened? Because that's one of the
Mhm.
difficulties whenever you're trying to get something going, right?
Right.
But so we're gonna have another day just like that, but that's certainly not the end goal. What we're going to do is, Edie, I'm a simple man. And we're gonna go into all 4 wards, because we've got 4 wards in our city.
Mhm.
And we're gonna go Ward 1, week 1, Ward 2, week 2, Ward 3, week 3, Ward 4, week 4. Because so many people may not feel included or invited if we say, hey, we're gonna be at this place, come if you can. So I'm gonna have these town hall meetings
Mhm.
at the wards. And because there are going to be some folks who say, yeah, I might be interested in this, but they've got something that's been bothering them and they really haven't had a place or someone, a project coordinator to direct it at or something like that.
Mhm.
So we'll have those conversations and I'll give people an opportunity to say what they would like to say, what they need to say. And then we're always going to come back to point number 2 of the powerful principles. That's important, but let's focus on what matters most.
Mhm.
And is this the most important thing that we're going to talk about? And the answer is probably not.
Mhm.
I've got lots of preferences. I'm sure you do too. And I'm not mad at preferences. We should have them. So it's not a matter of, is your preference valid? It's okay, this is important. Is it the most important? That's what we're going to focus on.
Mhm.
So and of course, we've got, this is the end of Q3. We're about to head into holiday season. Lots of
Right,
pumpkin
right.
stuff is up, right? So
Yes.
in those weekly meetings, we're going to have, of course, we're going to have the holidays in there.
Mhm.
So it's not a deadline to say by April the 4th, we'll have had 4 meetings in every ward and all this
Yeah.
sort of stuff.
Check. Yeah.
But here's what I think is going to happen. When we go to the ward meetings, I think some people will feel like, okay, well, this is what you're supposed to do. You said you want to involve everyone, so you're here, way to go.
Mhm.
And then when we come back the second meeting, I think they'll be like, oh, you did more than you said.
Yeah,
Blow clap,
right,
eye
right.
roll.
Yeah,
I've seen this before.
right.
Then when we come back the third time, I think there'll be some of this.
Mhm.
Why are you back again?
Mhm.
And it might take even the 4th time for someone to say, okay, so you really do, for them to really feel seen and valued.
Mhm.
And that's one of the reasons we're going to do that. And then, the ultimate goal when we're getting feedback, we're going to, kind of like the strategy shift, a version of that we did in leadership,
Right.
where we're putting some stuff on boards and sticky notes and answering questions and all those things. But ultimately, I want to have quarterly, not siloed, quarterly community conversations, gatherings with lots of food and fun and families and whatever.
Mhm.
And I want Ward 1 to host one of those. I want Ward 2, Ward 3. I want everybody to have a home game, right?
Mhm.
Because we've had some amazing events like that here, like the Loved Ones Barbecue a couple
Right,
years back.
right,
It was an
yes,
amazing thing.
yes, it
And
was, yeah.
and there are so many people who do so much good. But in the absence of encouragement, it feels like you're doing it in a vacuum. And
Yeah,
it feels like you're just constantly doing good and people are not responding. In fact, they're competing because we don't have a nonprofit that does this thing the way that I think it should be done. So I'm just gonna go start a new one. And I mean, I'm leading a nonprofit, right? So it's not that. One of my favorite things about this particular venture though is the Communities Foundation of Oklahoma. They do amazing work throughout the state for nonprofits.
Mhm.
What some people don't know is that program started here in Duncan, the Duncan Communities Foundation.
Mhm.
And so what we're doing is we're
I actually had opportunity to talk to them
really,
when our leadership Duncan class was kind of wrapping up to talk about some grant
yeah.
possibilities. I had some communication with them.
So there's such a,
yeah,
there's
they're
such a great, right? Such a
Yes.
great community. And so what they've done is they've helped us reinvigorate the Duncan Community Foundation that's here. And
Mhm.
so the Community Foundation of Oklahoma, when it started here, it was started by Mr. McCaskey.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that we're doing, and this is huge kudos to Chris and Alan, Chris Deal, Chris Rao, and Alan Gates, of coming back and saying, hey, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We don't need to create a whole new nonprofit. There's this one that's got heritage, it's got history,
Mhm.
but it hasn't really been very active lately. So what we've done from their leadership is to reinvigorate that. And so this nonprofit that's been around for literally decades now is one of the big hubs for this project. And I think that's an amazing thing. And it's highlighting, yes, this is kind of where we're heading with this project moving forward, but it's also steeped in the history of Duncan.
Right. So a couple of things I was thinking about. I think you kind of alluded to this. Duncan Heart and Soul is it a 501c3 nonprofit or is it a different?
We're really utilizing the Duncan Community Foundation 501c3, that
Okay.
nonprofit.
Okay, so where does your funding, what is the source for your funding?
So part of partnering with the Community Heart and Soul is that project, that whole process, there's a seed grant. That's part of why
Okay.
they have so many people. There's a seed grant, they call it a seed grant to get the program started. But also one of the things that's really incredible is there are some very big-hearted people and organizations here in Duncan that are saying, oh, they're gonna start the seed grant. Hey, I can make sure that we will help fund the program.
Mhm.
And so one of the great things, and so that part is largely overwhelmingly supportingly largely given here by some folks who are like, hey, I'm here, I don't want recognition, I just want people to know this is locally funded in
Right.
lots of ways.
Right.
So one of the things that we're going to do though is I love Beautiful Day, and I love what they do and how they have donations. They've got it used to be a beef raffle. This year they did the amazing thing with grocery
Right.
stores. And also they have the t-shirt thing.
Mhm.
And so people can donate to what they're doing and really sponsor some of the birthday parties and the kindred community events by buying a shirt. And you don't have to be part of an organization. Mike can go buy a shirt and then get the shirt, wear it proudly as a proud supporter.
Right.
And so we're going to do something like that as well. Not exactly maybe the same, but very similar. So people, and I don't know that it's going to have a for Duncan or if it's going to be just this logo. The shirt that I have that I wore to the community barbecue, the Stevens County United Way
Yes.
barbecue showdown on Saturday, which was great. I have one of those that I'm really proud of. We're gonna give opportunities for people to contribute in several different ways, but it's not if if you really are for Duncan,
Right,
you'll fork over money. It's none of that.
right.
And so that's part of the big thing that I want to make sure that people know. I mean, this isn't, we hired a group from a different state or a different community to come in and tell us what's wrong and how they can fix us. This is someone saying, hey, we're for people, we're for communities. We really do believe that the strength of every community lies in the hands and the hearts of the people who live there. And this program is for people who live, work, and play in Duncan. And so if someone, like with Leadership Duncan, there are some folks in this year's class and every class who are, maybe they live in Marlow, but they work here, or some surrounding areas. So it doesn't mean we're not for these surrounding areas. It means that this project is concentrated on Duncan, but it's also for people who live, work, and play, not just people who live here.
Right. So,
Yes, ma'am.
I love the vision of Duncan Heart and Soul. I mean, I really do. I remember when Dream Duncan's Destiny was a thing.
Yeah.
And I was able to participate in the youth portion of that, not because I was a youth, it was because my kids were youth. I'll just go ahead and clear that up. I know that was confusing for people. Anyway, so I have always, I mean, I'm a huge supporter of people doing things for other people. I'm just that person. It's just what makes Duncan Heart and Soul different? What's going to keep this from just being another nonprofit that's going to be competing for the money, which is a fixed amount of money in our community?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we are a 501c3. We're a nonprofit here at the Heritage Center. I'm on boards for other nonprofits.
Absolutely.
Our community is full of these, and I believe every one of them serve a purpose and give people an opportunity to help others. But what's going to make this one, Duncan Heart and Soul, not just one that's competing for that money and, ends up isolating themselves from the other groups?
Fabulous question. And I have this, we got preferences, but I've also got some convictions. And one of my main convictions about Duncan is we need to trade competition for collaboration. And not anything you can do, I can do better, but I'll look at this great thing that you're doing, and I'm going to do something that maybe sounds similar, but it's not competing against you. And the two big areas that on the outside looking in, it seems like I just threw my hat in the ring to compete with you on money and people. Because as you said, the people who are on boards, a lot of those same people are on multiple boards.
Right, yes.
And,
true.
And it's not like we're trying to dilute anyone. In Leadership Duncan, on Politics Day, when I was in it, Marcus McIntyre made a statement that I can't forget, and I think is very appropriate here. He said, we need to trade compromise for consensus. Because when we compromise, we focus on what we gave up. And when we look at the consensus, we're looking at what's right for everybody. So for me, what's the best for the most people, right? And so hopefully I didn't butcher your quote, Marcus. But that's it for me. That's the heart of this. The facts on it sound, so there's already 152 nonprofits in Stevens County, and now we're going to add another one. It sounds threatening, and it sounds like if I'm in a silo, I'm going to lock the doors, pull the shutters down, and I'm going to stay and hoard what I've got and who I've got. And I think that's exactly the wrong move. So what I want to do is I want to come and I want to lead. Like there are 4 different phases to this project, and lots of layers and lots of strategy, just like you guys have lots of strategy and everyone does. I don't want to bog anything down with that. I want to say this program is a resident driven program, and it's not trying to take away from anyone. It's trying to highlight what's so right about Duncan, not what's so broken. Is there stuff that's broken? Are there things that need to be fixed? Absolutely. And we should do whatever it is that we can do to fix those. But I think we should spend more time recognizing what's right. A lot of times people say, hey, we need to create some common ground. which I think is false. We have loads of common ground. We just need to recognize it and then step into it.
Right.
So I'm not trying to get to preaching that or anything, but for me, it's a constant reminder of I'm not against you. I'm not taking any of your piece of the pie. The pie is way bigger than we know that it could be. But the problem with that is we're not inviting other people to the conversation. So I'm not asking for everybody's nonprofit for a list of their board members and go talk to everyone else. I'm not saying that.
Right, right.
I'm just trying to lead with the heart of what this program is really all about. And if it's true, Mike, that it really is about focusing on what matters most, well, what matters most according to whom? Well, absolutely.
Right.
It's not what matters most to me. It's what is the biggest win for our community. And that's one of the reasons you mentioned the education part of Dream Duncan Destiny. There's a piece of this where we go into the schools. Well, I've already got relationships, 904 sessions in schools, right? So there, it's a natural fit. And when I met with education folks on Tuesday, I told them, I said, you guys have hired me to come in and do leadership lab sessions before. I'm not even pitching that in Duncan this year because I want to be clear of what I'm looking to do. It's evident that this is a great opportunity for us, but I don't want it to be, oh, so is this your leadership lab program that you're trying to push? And then under the mask of Duncan Heart and Soul, no, I don't want any question about that. So the big part of this is to engage high school students. And we want to have a meeting for 20 somethings, but I'm not going to call it a meeting because they won't come to a meeting, right? So when I
have coffee at Meridian.
that's it. Listen, it's going to be a gathering, and I'm not going to pick like it starts at 10. Like what is that? But it's one of those things in the same way that I wanted to choose Jimmy's Egg because there are no stairs, there's just a ramp. For that particular audience. I want the 20 somethings to, and I've reached out to a few of them. There are 2 in Leadership Duncan this year. I said, hey, I just turned 47. The 47-year-old's not planning the gatherings for the 20 somethings, right? But I'm for sure going to be there. And I think every opportunity we can have to have conversations instead of debates. That is going to fundamentally be one of the main differences. And it's partially because I've lived here for 8 years before taking this position. And so I don't mean I know everything about it, and I know 8 years is nothing compared to how long other people have lived here. I'm not trying to compete with that. I'm saying I'm not new and I'm for you.
Right. So a couple of things. I kind of like to say, people say, well, is it going to be either or?
Right.
And I like to say, well, how about both and? It's not going to be that to me, this is what it sounds like you're saying, and you can come back and if I'm saying something wrong, but it sounds like you want to get the information, all the information from all the people who want to be a part of this.
Right.
And be able to include as many people, I think, are going to find that they really want the same things.
Right.
And they're just, because of isolation for whatever reason, they're not aware of that.
Right.
The other thing that I see is that this program has the opportunity to, instead of the same people serving on multiple boards, there are people who live in our community who have so much to give to an organization that has a board, is run by a board, and they just don't know, what does that mean? What does that mean to sit on a board for an organization? Well, wait a minute, I have ideas.
Right.
I can give input on that. And I just feel like nonprofits will really end up being the beneficiaries of this, because we're going to become more aware of many more people in our community who have the skills, who have the experiences, and who have the desire to serve. They just hadn't found that niche for themselves.
I completely agree with that. And to your point, if I'm someone who's never been asked to be on a board, but I think I've got some things to offer, where's the line to become a member of a board of a nonprofit in Stevens County? Well, there's not one. And so if there's not a pool for me to throw my hat in the ring, or there's not like a LinkedIn for board members of nonprofits or whatever, then to your point, I may have these great ideas, but I'm not going to impose those on people. And so if I wait until I get included or invited, but the phone doesn't ring, then instead of me being really proud of some of those ideas and those gifts and those talents that I can bring, I may start questioning those and say, well, gosh, maybe they don't fit here. Maybe I don't fit here. And that's the worst case scenario, which is why I want to have conversations. And I've had conversations just one-on-one. I've had conversations with small groups, had conversations with dozens, and eventually I want to have conversations with hundreds and thousands. We've got over 24,000 people in Duncan, which is great. Period. Full stop. It's not, well, there's too many of this, there's not enough of that. It's none of that. One of the things that we're going to do differently than how it's been done before is we're for sure going to have a presence on social media, but I'm not mudslinging on social media. I've already had the opportunity, I'll say it that way. I've already had the opportunity to delete a couple of negative comments. And then I followed that up with a message to the person that said, hey, I'd love to have a conversation with you. This is not how we're going to do it. So the way that we're going to do it is just like starting a business. We're going to have an email list, and we'll have notes about what has gone on, what's coming, and what's next. And we're going to do that both in English and in Spanish, because when we don't do it in Spanish, we're leaving out 17% of our population and saying, we're for you, we want you to be involved, but you'll never know it because we're not communicating it in literally the language you speak. So for me, that's a huge thing that we're going to do. And I think the next right step for us, which does vary a little from the community heart and soul model, the next right step for us is to have another day like we did on Tuesday. And now that people have seen a little bit, it's really an orientation conversation. And I completely prescribe to the yes and method. It's not either or, it's both and, absolutely. So when people have questions, I want you to ask the questions. How I do in my business, when people have specific questions, we answer the specific questions. And the best way to do that is on a YouTube video for me, because this is the question. How do I get involved with this as a nonprofit? Love that question. So I'm going to take that question. I'm going to shoot the video with the camera, and I'll say, I'll answer the question, and then I'll post it on YouTube, and then we'll send it out. Because what I learned in elementary school, and anyone who's ever been in school, it's like, sometimes I have a question, but I'm not going to ask it. But if somebody else will ask it, then, oh, my question gets answered too. So we're going to take the questions and the answers and put handles on them. So when someone says, well, I got a question, what's all this? What's this Duncan heart and soul thing all about? Is that a Jesus thing? Is that love the Lord your God with all your Duncan heart and soul? Like, what is that all about? Then we can, whoever that is, when someone asks you that question, you don't have to defend me. You can just say, oh, well, I know this is the answer that Mike gives for that. And then you can just send it to them. And that's the way, I mean, it's the way that you grow a YouTube channel, but really it's also the way for me to help people get the information that they need. When they ask a specific question, I'm going to answer a specific question. The exact specific question that I got yesterday was, are we going to do this every Tuesday? And the answer to that specific question is no. Period. But we are going to do it again. And it's going to be this day. Now, does it make sense over the next 3 to 5 years to have the orientation meeting multiple times so people can, get in where you fit in? They say, oh, maybe it's March of 2024. Oh, I just now heard about this. I don't know where I've been, but where do I get started? Okay, well, at that point, there'll be more messengers carrying the message out than just me and our 14 members, right? But at that point, I also think it's really valuable to have an onboarding training. Say this is the Cliff Notes version. This is what it is. This is what we're doing. Now I want to go to YouTube, watch all this content you want, the truth is, before I was hired to be the project coordinator, I probably watched 50 hours worth of videos on YouTube from Community Heart and Soul, because I wanted to know what it was that I was getting into.
Right.
And
Right.
the more I got into it, the more I thought, wow, this is really, really a cool thing. And I could see how we could do this here, and how we could do, oh, this would be great addition for, you know, our business community on the north side of town. Oh, this would be great to bring in DATIF and have their input. Oh, this over here would be fantastic with the chamber, and especially with the chamber's big mantra of advocate, connect, and grow. Well, they're not competing with anyone either. So
Right.
that's, for me, it's a very much a connecting piece. Like, okay, what's already going really well in our community, and what's something that I love to ask the question, who do you know that I need to know? Because I'm always trying to think, who do I know that needs to be connected with you?
Mhm.
And with the trails, you're like, hey, we need volunteers. Okay, fantastic. Who are people who would be great volunteers? People who are retired teachers would be great. Okay, like, and you would say, oh, we need whatever it is that you would say we would need. I don't mean it's not like, welcome to Chili's, how many in your party?
Yeah.
Like, it's not that I have all those answers, but I think the more we're looking for solutions, back to focus on what matters most, and the less we're looking at the problems,
Mhm.
then that's what's going to move our community forward. And certainly I can talk about.
You
it
know,
for
we,
days.
here at the Heritage Center, we have an event we call Raining in the Arts. And it's kind of our attempt to bring the art community together here. Not the, Chisholm Trail Arts Council and performers and other artists and just whoever, authors, just anybody who does anything like that. They are here for that day for so many hours, and we're all working together. We believe we have the perfect location for that. And so our attempt is to, open our arms and just welcome everyone in for that day. Now, that's a much smaller scale than what you're talking about. But what I hope will be a result of the heart and soul movement here, I'm gonna call it a movement,
Please do.
Yeah.
Love it. So will I now.
is diversity is a huge word these days, and it's an important word. I hope to see diversity among the nonprofits of our community. I do not think we are well represented. I don't think our community's demographics are well represented with our nonprofits. The boards, the people that are doing, I feel like we have missed opportunities there. And so I really see this as a great way for us to diversify age, race, gender, socioeconomic. Everyone has something that they can offer to one of our nonprofits. And so I really hope that to see that, kind of as a result of your efforts. And I mean, I can see the vision. I can see, where that lawn game is headed. And I really hope that you get the encouragement and the participation. I hope that your vision is catching and that our community will respond to this in a positive way and see what a great coming together this can be. I know that I mean, when you say the long game, it kind of makes me laugh because that's the killer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where people get hyped up at first, but then during the part in the middle, it's hard to stay focused on what you're headed towards.
I completely agree. And it's one of the things, I mean, there's one of the great scriptures is don't get weary in doing good, right? And everybody can come out of the gate 90-0. Everybody can come out of the gate strong, big vision, all that. But that's why I think those three principles are so key. And if people only remember two things, I want them to remember that we're for the community.
Mhm.
And the other thing is those three principles,
Mhm.
because there's going to be one that resonates maybe more than the other, but they're all three really, really good.
Mhm.
And so week one, which is not officially week one, like it's been, people have been working behind the scenes. I know Chris
Right.
Allen came, like I
Right.
watched that one.
Yeah.
I think it was over a year ago when you had your first chat with them.
Mhm.
So there's always going to be an opportunity for someone to say, well, you said it's the first day, but I've been hearing murmurings, or, yeah, okay, yes, and you're correct.
Mhm. Yeah.
And now to focus on what matters most.
Mhm.
Now we're launching into the community. And how do you think we could help get the message out? Like, I've been invited to Rotary, had a great conversation with good folks in Rotary. I got to speak to Leadership Duncan last week on their Culture and Quality of Life Day. And I ended my conversation with them, and this is something that I really, it's not in the script, it's not in the playbooks from Community Heart and Soul, but it's my conviction. If we, the people of Duncan, won't fight for Duncan, then we will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't mean fight with each other. I say this all the time. I'll always fight for you. And sometimes that means I'll fight with you, but that's because you're worth fighting for.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes we just look for the quickest fight instead of looking for the most important cause.
Mhm.
And when you say the most important cause, okay, Mike, are you saying that one of the 150 something nonprofits are more important than the other ones because there can only be one who's first? No. And I think that stinking thinking is the thing that can really set us way, way back.
Mhm.
And it's possible that people can dig their heels in and say, hey, I'm not part of any of this community, whatever thing you want to talk about. Like, you didn't help me. You haven't heard me before. You're not going to hear me now. I'm not trying to win people over. That's not my job. My job is to help people feel seen and feel
Right.
valued.
Right.
And when people do feel included and want to get involved, there's absolutely a place for you.
Mhm.
We have these three committees that we're going to be, we'll have for the life of this project, and then probably even beyond.
Mhm.
And when I say these three committees, you'll probably think of people, but you'll also probably think of people who are already doing some of those type of things here in Duncan.
Yeah.
And the goal is not to kick anybody out or move them out. The communications sub-team,
Mhm.
the event planning sub-team, and possibly my favorite one is the story gathering.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because I think you got to listen with your eyes, because sometimes people will tell you lots of things by the things that they're not saying with their words, right?
Right.
And so one of the reasons why we'll have surveys and we'll have lots of opportunities, but I don't just want you to write in what you love about Duncan. And this is my favorite question to ask right now. What do you love about Duncan? And I ask that every time on Tuesday.
Mhm.
And I got to hear answers, even if people said some very similar words, their facial expressions were different.
Mhm.
And I had people say, hey, listen, community. And when my house burned down, I didn't buy anything
Mhm.
to fix it. I went to Walmart to try to buy stuff. And every time I tried to buy it, I would see someone I know and they would cut me in line and they would pay for it.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh, wow, that's an amazing story. And another person in that same meeting said, I know just what you mean. We had an issue very similar to that. It wasn't necessarily a house fire, but we had a very big loss in our family. And that's not what was publicized, right?
Mhm.
That's not what makes the news or what, and I'm not mad at the news.
Yeah.
Justin brought his camera the other day and recorded stuff, which was so great. Even when we were talking, he's like, oh, this is a little different story.
Mhm.
Thanks, that's great.
Yeah.
Because our community, not us, Duncan, the community, our culture is more known by what we're against than we're for. And
Well, it's the old song, Dirty Laundry.
that's right. Absolutely right. Well, and the truth is, the stories that we tell, good news travels fast, but bad news travels faster.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm just such a proponent of when you see someone doing good, call it out. Don't assume that everyone is getting all the encouragement that they need. And leadership 101, what gets rewarded gets repeated. So when you see someone doing good and you recognize them and reward them for doing good, what are they going to want to do? more good.
Mhm.
But if the only thing I recognize with my time and attention is correcting people, then one, I'm gonna look for ways to correct people more.
Mhm.
But two, that's what is going to I'm gonna gravitate towards. So when I ask the question, what do you love about Duncan? I love getting those answers. And of course, the most frequent answer is the people. And then I
Right.
smile and take a drink of water and say, if I were to ask you what's the most maddening thing, of course, that's going to be the people. And I know that because I am the people. And some days
Yeah.
I'm the ones that you like, and other days I'm the one that you're like, dude, could we get this guy off of the screen or whatever? But for someone who loves the community like you do, I would love to hear your answer to that question. What's something that you love about Duncan? And it could be so many things that we put it on Facebook. I'm gonna give you a couple of seconds to think about it. Put it on Facebook, and one of the responses, well, there are so many things, too many to list, but here are 10.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then someone else said, oh, those 10 are great. Hey, I've only lived here a short amount of time. We lived here, we moved from Oklahoma City, yada, yada, yada. And then this person listened to some. And the original poster said, oh, I thought you lived here for decades. I didn't know you've only been here a short period of time.
Yeah.
So that's the community, and you'll find what you're looking for. If you want to find a way to engage or to feel included, you absolutely can. And one of the things as I said before, I've experienced your engagement, your involvement, yes, through Leadership Duncan and through some of those circles that we've been in, but also we were both invited by a teacher and a swim coach to come and have conversations with their students. Like, what a great thing for them to invite us to observe / judge, for lack of a better term, right? Like, that just shows how well respected that you are in the community. So I would love, and you don't just get to lead on your show, but this is what I love about them. But I want to ask you, and this is why I bring a bottle of water, so I'll remember, hey, Mike, shut up, stop talking, right? So what do you love about Duncan?
What do I love about Duncan? I love that when I'm walking my dog, I have met so many people in my neighborhood. Some of them watch for us, and I'll see them at a Walmart or someplace else in town, and they'll say, hey, I saw you out walking your dog. We see each other.
Yeah.
I love that.
So
I love that Duncan has a great place to go get snow cones, and you can talk about your favorite snow cone flavor, and everybody gets excited. Oh, I haven't tried that yet.
Right.
That's fun. You know, I love the taco trucks in Duncan.
absolutely.
Taco trucks are awesome. I love, honestly, I kind of love shopping in Duncan.
That's great.
You know, there's not, there's, sometimes you have to order things online.
Yeah.
But if you try, you can find.
Right.
When the pandemic hit, we did not go to Walmart for 6 months. We were able to find everything we needed. We had to go to multiple places. Well, there are plenty of stores here in Duncan that can supply all of your needs.
Yeah.
When we redid the house where we live, we bought everything we could here in Duncan. There are stores where you can buy tile and other flooring and carpet and paint, and you can get all of those things that you need right here in Duncan. And I like the way, when I'm walking my dog too, people wave.
Right.
People wave.
Right.
Or they'll roll down their window and talk to me.
Wow.
You know, it's a very friendly place to live. I can't imagine raising my kids anywhere else. Now, on the other side of that, hopefully some things will change, but there's nothing really here that made my kids want to come back and raise their families here.
Right.
So that's, I think, is a thing that we can work on.
Right.
But I'm glad I raised my family here. And there are 86 churches.
Absolutely. Well, I love that you said that. And that's part of what we're doing. We're recognizing what's good, focusing on what matters most. Yeah, sure. And then also, yes, and what's something that could make it better?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't believe the best days of Dunkin' are behind us.
Yeah,
And that is no shade from where we've come. For me, it's the very same thing with my kids. They're standing on my shoulders, like their floor is my ceiling, right? And I believe the 2040 version of Dunkin' is gonna be maybe not drastically different than this one, but we're gonna be at that point standing on the shoulders of this group of Dunkin', right?
yeah.
So I love that you said those things. There's a nice lady, I mentioned my international headquarters are in City Hall
Right.
and the chamber. There's a nice lady. I was walking out to grab something out of my car. She was walking out after paying her bill. And I said, excuse me, my name is Mike. I'm the project coordinator of this new initiative, and I'd love to ask you a question. Do you have a moment? And she didn't really have a moment, but she obliged anyway. And I said, what do you love about Dunkin'? And she said some different things. She said, well, I'm really from Dallas. I lived there. She told me what she did for 20 something years. And I let her say what she wanted to say. I didn't have a bottle of water. So it was interesting.
Really hard.
Yeah, exactly right. And then I said, okay, I understand that. And there's no place to eat. Okay. And then I smiled. I said, but what do you love about Dunkin'? Like, because you're still here.
Yeah.
So what do you love about Dunkin'? Not what you just said was trash, not diminishing that. Okay, thanks for sharing that with me. And what do you love about Dunkin'? And then she said, there really are some pretty friendly people here. I said, well, that's great. And she said a little bit more about that. I said, well, what's one thing that you miss that we used to have? Bowling alley, like bowling alley. Like I love those people. We would go bowling and her face changed and her demeanor changed. And then I said, well, my Meemaw taught me how to bowl. So then she's never met my Meemaw, but we had a conversation there about what that could be. And I said, okay, well, thanks for sharing that with me. Now you mentioned you would rather have a different place to eat. What? Chili's. I want Chili's. I said, listen, I can't be trusted with the Southwest egg rolls like that. That's, and so we ended up having a great 5-minute conversation that at the very beginning, I nearly didn't ask her, because her face didn't look like she wanted to have a conversation with a guy who's trying to find out what's the best part about them. And there have been lots of times where I talk myself out of it and I don't engage.
Yeah.
But I had the conversation. I invited her to the conversation. She said yes. And then she started telling me, not answering my question, telling me what she wanted to say. And then I heard what she said and I came back to my question. And then she responded. I kind of wore her down in a very short period of time. And I think that's my encouragement to people. When I say the best way for you to engage with this is to ask someone the question, what do you love most about Dunkin'? And then listen. And then say, what do you wish we could do? What do you wish we had? If Dunkin' were the thing that you dreamed that it could be, the place that you dreamed it could be, what would it look like? And that doesn't mean we've got, a magic wand or endless money or any of that stuff to make it happen. But that is when we get to come back and say, well, this program has 3 powerful principles. Involve everyone, focus on what matters most, and play the long game. And so when you say, what I'm hearing you say is, man, I love the people. I walk the dog. Like if you got a dog and you're only walking them in your backyard, you're missing out. Like, why don't you get out?
Get on the street, people.
So
You make a lot of friends out there.
And then the silos that we have, we'll look and see, well, I think I could probably connect this in a little bit of a different way. And then the silos don't feel like they're so separated.
Yeah.
We feel like, okay, well, maybe, even though I haven't been asked before, maybe I could be part of that group. Because it's the same thing, like when you're at work and you're saying, all right, everybody, we're going out for drinks or we're going to lunch or whatever. Some people won't see that as an invitation. And if I don't feel included anyway, but you say, well, we're all coming to this place at this same time, then I might find, well, if you don't want me to, if I'm not included in the regular day, I'm not gonna be included in the special event, even though that's not the intent. So by saying involve everyone, but some people don't feel, and they won't get involved if they don't feel included, and they won't feel included if you don't invite them. That's one of the reasons why I'm making the graphics that people can share, text, send, however, making the videos that they can send. That's how a couple of the folks that came to the meetings They're like, I didn't even know about it, but I got this. So-and-so forwarded me your 45-second video inviting, if you're a business owner, if you're a nonprofit leader at
Yeah.
Dunkin', this is for you. And they're like, oh, well, I am that, so this must be for me.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing that on the front end, so people can put handles on it and invite people however they go. So
Yeah.
I look forward to lots more, message boards and giant sticky notes and lots of comments on social media and just conversations of people laughing and enjoying talking about, yes, some of the old reminiscing, but saying the things that they love about Dunkin'. And you still live here.
Mhm.
So since you still live, work, or play here, what could you do? How could you be part of the solution?
Mhm.
And that I'm so excited about what that's going to be, not because Dunkin' is so broken and needs to be fixed, but because when we do start to synergize more, when we do start to work together and trade competition for collaboration and all those things, then we can come together and have Love Wins 2.0 or have whatever the deal
Yeah.
we're having and say,
Yeah.
okay, now what does this make possible?
Mhm.
Now that we're playing nice, not only playing nice together, but people feel included and they feel like they're all together. Oh man, now it's not us and them, it's we.
Right.
Regardless of the ward, regardless of city council or whoever, whatever the thing, regardless of the number of churches, regardless of whatever thing that I don't feel like I was invited to. Because all of these people, when I had the conversation with the church leaders, they all want the same thing.
Mhm.
So do the business leaders, so do the nonprofit leaders, so do the education leaders. So do the medical profession. We just don't have a great roadmap to get there.
Mhm.
And so that's why I want to be an inviter, and I want to ask the question, who do you know that I need to know, and what do you love most about Dunkin'?
Right.
And then we continue to have those conversations.
Right. Well, I didn't say that I love my job, but I do. And I love the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center. I feel like it's such a great place, and I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to have Trail Talk
Absolutely.
and have a place where we can talk about things that are happening in our community. I love the vision and this movement
Thank you.
for Dunkin' Heart and Soul. And, people say leave them wanting more. I think there's a lot more. There's a lot.
There's for sure a lot.
happening.
Yes, ma'am.
And so we're very excited, Mike. Thank you so much for being on Trail Talk today and just really sharing the heart, the vision, the potential, just everything, all the expectations
Yes, ma'am.
out there, and that it's not just yours, but it's the expectations that the community will bring.
Absolutely.
And it's just gonna be great.
Yes, ma'am.
It's gonna be great.
It's my pleasure. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you are intrigued and will be watching for these opportunities to meet with Mike and share some of your heart about this great place we live. And you know what? If you don't think it's the greatest place, come for sure.
Absolutely.
And let's make it the greatest place for you too. Again, thank you for joining us on Trail Talk. Tune in next week. We're going to learn more about Native Americans who fought for the U.S. and Matt Axton, who's Hoyt Axton's son, May Axton's grandson.
Wow.
He is performing in the Chisholm Trail Arts Council concert series next Thursday night, the 28th.
Wow,
At the
that's
Simmons Center, and he's going to be on Trail Talk again. He came through Dunkin' a little over a year ago, I guess, and stopped by and sang some songs, and we got to talk to him. And he came back for the Dunkin' Area Arts Hall of Fame, where he accepted the awards that were given to May and Hoyt. And anyway, now he's coming back as a part of the concert series. He's
That's
on tour.
fantastic.
I know, it's so exciting. You should get
You do have a great job. I mean, that's
And so Matt's going to be here, and we're going to chat it up with him a little bit. So we will see you guys next time. And it's time for us to say happy trails.
happy
Happy
trails.
trails.